Welcome to the video submission for my game, which is called Lockebuster, Temple of the Golden Sun. This video was created for my final year project, which I've focused on level design and the narrative that coincides within it. The third-person action-adventure game set in the Amazon rainforest, where the player assumes the role of James Locke, a YouTuber turned explorer. This level is split up into 3 sectors. This first part is a tutorial level where the player is introduced to the movement and climbing mechanics. Instantly you're faced with this wall. It's a small, secluded area where the player must make his way up to the Kissing Rocks. That is the secret entrance into a cannibalistic tribe's village. As you can see, the rock placement here being used to guide the player. This is where I want him to go. I've marked the ledges that you can climb as orange, as well as the ledges that you can reach. Any areas throughout the level would be marked as orange, and they would be made noticeable within a game for a player that they can go, okay, that's where I need to be going. In a real game, you would be able to distinguish where the next path. One of the cool things that I feel like adding in to this level, adding into the design of this level, is the player's ability to choose a couple of different paths. Don't want it to just be fully linear. Now, in this instance, you jump up, okay. You instantly know ledges are orange, that means good, you can climb. So to force the player to go down to the left, this is what I would want to do. Okay, that's interesting, you've piqued my interest. This is what I would want the player to do, because this is the area he needs to get to. The whole level is about rewarding the player for his exploration. Now if you go this way, you will be rewarded. And the way that you're rewarded is, you explained how the climb and hang and drop works. It'll stop you from losing any health if you do this, which I'll explain. There you go. But if the player just decides that he wants to jump off, as you can see on the health bar, he's lost a bit of health. And again, the player is rewarded with some loot. Both paths lead up to the exact same place. So it's given the player the illusion of choice. I don't want to just take that away from the player. Now these were placed away from each other. I want to frustrate the player, but we're still going to educate them on the mechanics. And this part is very important, because if you do a speed run where you think, okay, I'm just going to try and go through the level as quick as possible, and you end up coming down this way rather than going the other way, you're still educated in regards to the mechanics. We'll still tell you how to control the hang. The only difference is, compared to going round the other way, you are rewarded by being told that if you don't hang and drop, you will lose health. If you go the speedy way, the player will have to learn that themselves. As you can see, I have tried to implement a cycle for the sun. Throughout the level, there are several points where the sun will move. This is just to give it a day and night time feel. I want the player to know how long they've been trekking through the jungle. And there are several checkpoints throughout the area. I'll just give you an example of one now. And as you can see, after dying, we're back up here, back to the checkpoint. There are several checkpoints placed throughout the level. Just makes it easier for player testing. It was something that I definitely needed to include, and judging from the original player test, it was something that was needed to be implemented. So there you go. As you can see, there's a better view of the rocks, trying to guide the player. Certain trees that I've placed, also trying to guide the player, placed at an angle. I want the player to move forward. Throughout the level, there's constant little areas where you can see moving forward. I want the player to be able to not only see where they need to go, but also I want them to see where they've came from. Get a nice view of where you've came from as you come out on this edge. Set a little bit claustrophobic to give that player a feel of fear when walking across it. I want them to be scared of falling off. And you get a big reveal. Now, in this instance, I'm going to drop down, and I will explain this a little bit further on in the level. But as you can see, we do have hidden areas where the player can gain loot. And this is the area where you were able to see into before. Now this bridge is purposely done as orange. See a couple of skeletons there. It's a death trap. Items that have fell down. Now, I want the player to feel like the orange is safe. Orange is safe throughout the level. It's very important. Again, these are placed just within reach, so the player assumes that they can be able to climb this ledge. But they can't. And I'll come back to this little part after we've done the mountain area. So here we are introducing the player to fallen ledges. If I was a player, I would ignore this and I would go for this. But this would fall. It would shake, and after a few seconds of hopefully the player staying on, it would fall. Or, as the player jumps up, it would fall. And this is an indicator to the player that these types of ledges will fall. We're scaling these areas. See the mountains ahead. And you get a glimpse of the highest point of the map. There's a small waterfall for the player to get around. And here, you can see there are different tiles. The player can still get onto them, but it means you just have to choose as wisely the path that he takes. And again, as I've said before, I want the player to see where he's going. When creating this level, that was what was made in mind. Beautiful views. I want the player to want to explore where he's going. And again, we are coming to another waterfall. And here the player has two option paths. And you know as a player that you need to reach the highest point. You've already seen the big vista where the area opens up and you know where you need to be going. You've got an idea. You can either go up or down. Up is the safety option. You can go up and you carry on all the way around to the path where you're meant to be. Or, as I've said before, we do reward exploration. And with this in mind, if the player decides to come down this way, as you can see, we have a treasure chest. You can also see what's coming in the road ahead. Now I've marked anything red as danger. This is dangerous to the player. Not something that the player would instantly know, but you'll see why. We have a little bit of a different climbing mechanic here. Now back to the point of the smoke. So if the player does miss the cave entrance, That is the first thing I want him to see as he climbs up here. This is why this rock is pointed in this direction. I want this to be the player's view because I want the player to go, okay, I've got a choice here. I can carry on with my path, or I can go back and have a look in there. How do I do that? I do it by going down this ladder. But my only issue is I know I can't climb back up this ladder once I go down that way. So I have a choice to make. Do I go back? And it's risk versus reward. If you haven't already been there, I want the player to think and be intrigued to find out what is actually in there. You're coming around this corner. Oh, I'm guiding the player with these rocks. Again. Oh, there's a big rock. And you come to here. Now you know where you need to go. You need to end up going here. You can take a look about. And there's a treasure chest. But the player might not notice that. You might not go all the way to the edge. In this instance for the level, we are going to get this. As you can see here, always indicating to the player, this is the path that I need to take. The player already knows he needs to use speed to grab the ledges. It's a safe enough distance to still make the player feel claustrophobic as he enters this smaller area. We want to give the player a sense of fear that they're going to fall. Now instantly the player knows he needs to go this way. But I'm piquing the player's interest and piquing the player's curiosity of heading in this direction. And this part is really important to the level. This is where the player attains a backpack. You will now have a backpack. If the player was to not enter this way and pick the backpack up, in the actual level, this next part wouldn't happen until the player has gotten the backpack. So this area would be, you would be able to come to this area, but you'll see now, we have the death rocks and they're triggered. If the player had not gained the backpack, then he would not be able to trigger these boxes and the way would be stuck. Wouldn't be able to get around them blocks. If they do touch you, you do actually die. I have gotten that in the script, but for the sake of the video and time, let's carry on. You see the time of day now. When I enter these caves, the sun is setting. This is because we've reached, or almost reached, the objective. This is to show the player throughout the level of how long it is actually taking them to get through. If you've missed that treasure chest, you might have missed the treasure chest below. I want the player to look out and view everything. View where they've come from. As I've said before, that is a big part of the level design. So if the player looks down, he's missed that treasure chest and he thinks, oh, okay, I might go back down this way. But you can also see the black smoke. The player might have missed this firsthand as well. You can see the black smoke for the first cave entrance. And they're all in direct line of sight of getting down from each other. So you can get down this way and then use the ladders. You go back round, you come back up and you go the correct way of collecting the treasure chest. This actually does work and I will show you. And there we are. We're on the ledge and we can go back round. And this is where you would move on to the second part of the level. As I'm coming around that corner, I want the player to see this. This is the highest point of the mountain that we're climbing. Chiefs are placed at the highest point. This is so they can see what's going on. And that's why I've placed this there. So this is the overall objective of where we need to go next. Throughout this level, This part is a stealth-based level. The whole purpose of this is for the player to avoid the cannibalistic tribe, reach the chief's tent, and steal the map for the Temple of the Golden Sun. There are several different ways that you can approach this level. If you're caught, it means game over and you restart from the checkpoint. For the purpose of playtesting, I have turned that part off, so we will go through the level unscathed. The AI, some of them have been purposely set around the level, and I've used a path track to make them follow certain routes to make it look as they are on guard sentry. You can see here the majority of items that you can, when you're walking past and you can see into the camps, they have head height. I want them make the player feel as though they're going to get caught, give them plenty of options to prevent that from happening. There are several different paths that you can take. You could go left, and this leads you to a chest. You could have gone right, and that would have given you the option to go up here and across. The different ways of the level are different difficulties. What I wanted to do was make it so if the player takes the short path, or what the player would assume as a short path, then it would make it more condensed and more harder for the player to get through via stealth. But instantly, you can still see as you come out of these areas are little safety points, places where you wouldn't get caught from the AI. As you come through, you can still see in the distance there, you can still see the chief's tent. So instantly, the player would go, okay, I'm going to go this way. But this way is the harder path. It's more condensed. There's more areas there where you would get caught, and it takes a lot more time. If the player chooses the longer path, although it is a little bit easier, it is still hard. I've placed the grasp carefully in order to make it feel as though the player has to move from one area to another without being seen by the AI. Again, you can still reach the different areas. We'll go this way for now. You turn around and you get a view of the chief's tent. And again, another safety point where the player can relax, get ready for the next part. Footsteps is a big thing. The player can hear what's going on around him. I would assume that the player would want to go that way, but I've made it a little bit trickier. As I said before, we are rewarding exploration. In this circumstance, we don't want to get caught. If you study the AI, you can see which way they're going, and you can make a route based on that. All about timing. And now, here we are. We are at the chief's tent. Do I go this way? No, I don't. It's too compact and the player will get caught. We'll use our go prone and we'll wait our time. Now here, this is where you get the first glimpse of the Golden Temple. It's dark and it's not lit up, and that's done purposely. I want the player to be intrigued. I want the player to look at this area and go, what is that? And we pick up the map. And this area, we also get an axe. And we're back out. So I've seen that golden temple, but you don't really know what it is yet, because it's a bit dark. And now you have the map, you know which way you're going. And this would be indicated to the player on the player's map. Now, I want the player to be caught. And this would be the point where the player would be caught. This is the entrance, the official entrance to the cannibalistic tribe's camp. This is where the AI would shout thief and the player would run. And I want the player to feel claustrophobic, which is why I chose bamboo. There's the Temple of the Golden Sun. And back to the bridges. Originally I wanted to make the bridges feel safe. That's why the bridges throughout the level are orange. There are two that you can climb across. One in Sector 1 and one in Sector 2. However, I want the player to be lulled in a false sense of security when approaching this bridge. Because it's going to disappear. And this is where you're going to end up. You're in an illegal gold mining operation. It's clear that this place has been abandoned. And inside these cages would be the newly formed corpses of members of the cannibalistic tribe. Now, even though they've just tried to kill you, you feel a sense of anger that these people in their own homes have been kept in cages. Evidence have been used as slaves. And although you are pro-life, you do think that it's time that you take the right opportunity in case there are any dangers ahead. You see that you are able to get through the cave in, and instantly you've gone from torches to battery powered lights. It's done purposely to make the player feel like they're in an alien environment compared to what they've already been in, which is the jungle aesthetic and the tribe village. Now we're coming and we can see battery powered electricity. What is going on? And here we have our first combat encounter. As I've said, you immediately go from this primal area to an area of thinking, what the hell is going on? This is a big corporation with an illegal gold mining operation. Throughout this part of the level, the orange part is where I've placed ammo. Orange crates in the orange boxes. So the objective is to get up there. You can see the ladder's being broken. You can see there's a ladder going out. And where are we? We're in a cave. If the player decides that they do want to approach this with a crazy, I'm going to kill everyone approach and I'm just going to shoot my way through, that's fine. But it's been designed with two ways in mind. You can either have that approach or you can try and take the stealth route. For me, personally, I do choose the stealth route every time. It's a personal favourite. That's entirely down to the player. And here, I wanted to make it visible that there's been a collapse. You know your route. This is the route that you need to be taking. Because of the collapsing, you can't. The only way through is to go down. Didn't want to take away the reversal mechanics of the what makes the first part so good. I still wanted to incorporate that into areas where you would come up against enemies and you can still use the gun. You've made it here, and this is the end of the level. And it would to be continued. So thank you for anyone who's watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.